Ah, fantastic. I heard a little beep, which means one thing and one thing only. It is game time, it's show time. And thank you, Shelley, so much for saying yes to joining me as a friend of Coffee with Kofi to share your story. But before we get started, I'd like to do a little introduction, if I may, and then you can tell me true, false, or who the hell told you about that. Is that all?
Oh dear, yeah.
I see the nervous scratch there.
Yeah, I know.
Don't worry. You're a friend. You're a friend.
What have you found out?
You're a friend, not foe. So today I am absolutely buzzing to catch up with someone who I consider to be a true game changer, with a career spanning over 20 years, driving transformation inside complex organizations, launching national partnerships, driving commercial innovation, leading cultural change, and helping leadership teams deliver real results. I am talking about none other than our award-winning national treasure and champion of the underrepresented, now a change agent navigating a new chapter whilst co-parenting two largely delightful boys, whilst living life to the fullest on her terms. Thank you once again, Shelley. And yeah, time for Q&A. Did I make anything up that you're like, where the hell?
Hopefully that was beautiful. Thank you. I think that's probably the best intro that I've had, actually. I'm going to say that. So you've done well. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually brought you a heart-shaped jammy dodger. So there's two because it's coffee and coffee, but I've diversified to bring snacks. So
that's not fair though. Okay.
So now that we've broken the proverbial biscuit, not bread this time, I am so passionate about this conversation because I think it's so important for people to know who we are. And often, as you know, in corporate land, we will present and be who we think we need to be, depend on the environment, depend on our own evolution. And the whole purpose of this series is a platform for others to see, hear, and feel like the stories of others that have really tried to live their life through purpose, and whatever way that's come to them is their own story and their own journey. So part Louis Theroux, part Oprah Winfrey, but just really about you to help others on their way. So if I may, I'm a big believer that where we start in life need never be where we arrive. And that said, it would be super great to hear your backstory. So can you tell us a bit about your life growing up so people can get situated in the genesis of Shelley Bishton?
Thank you, Kofi. So you'll probably hear, and you'll definitely hear a lot more as we go through, that I'm from Birmingham. The more comfortable I get, the more it comes out, apparently. So let's hope you get. So yeah, I'm from Birmingham. I was raised in Birmingham in the 1980s. Very multicultural city, very, very multicultural city. And in the time that I was growing up, you know, Black liberation, Black representation was really at the forefront of the agenda. I'm born of my parents, which are, my mum is Jamaican, and she came over in the Windrush.
Okay.
And my father is white English. And they were both activists, actually. I'd probably say they still are. There'll always be an activism inside them. But during the 1980s, they were really fighting against the lack of representation of Black people. My mum did it through education. They co-founded a company called Handprint, which was a publishing company, which was really focused on trying to provide educational materials and tools to young Black children, because there wasn't any at the time. There still isn't much now, sadly. And my dad came at it through a lens of media and culture and the arts, and he was a photographer. And so he really wanted to see and show how Black people and marginalized communities could be more represented. So I kind of grew up in this environment with both my parents. Also, the school I went to in Birmingham, I remember, you know, my primary school, it was literally, you had to spot the white person in the school.
Oh, wow.
It was fully South Asian, predominantly Black Caribbean, but it was literally like, you wouldn't, you know, I was one of the lightest people there. I kind of grew up in this environment, loved it, very multicultural. That was my basis, kind of who I became at that time. Definitely has had a big influence on me now. There was a shift for me because I went from being in that environment in my primary school to, I loved education, I loved learning, I loved reading, and my parents put me forward for the 11+, which is the grammar test.
Yeah.
And I passed. And I remember that I actually remember the day that I found out I passed in school, because the head teacher called me to the office and was like, you know, surprise, you've passed your 11+, because it came to them before it came to the parents then. I don't know why.
Okay.
And I remember being kind of baffled as to what that actually meant. Went back into the classroom with a teacher who, again, I remember and I'll never forget because she was awful. And I said, I've passed my 11+, you know, I'm 10 years old. And she was like, you, and the shock in her face.
Wow.
And I still remember, and I can still feel me questioning, yeah, me, you know, like it was even a shock for myself. There wasn't many people in the school. I think there was like 2 of us who passed the grammar test. Anyway, it all changed for me after that, because I went from living in a part of Birmingham, which was really multicultural, growing up in this environment, feeling really in tune with who I was, my family, you know, my culture, to then I went to a grammar school on the other side of Birmingham in a place called Sutton Coldfield, which is predominantly white. I don't know, you know, it's quite a well-known part of Birmingham, predominantly white. So I then went to secondary school and had the biggest culture shock of my life, I think, so far. Still, you know, I can talk about it a bit more. I think it created the groundings for why I feel like I can be successful in white corporate environments, because this school, it was, you know, it was all white. I was one of the only Black children in the school. And yeah.
You know, I think we could just do the whole conversation on that experience through your formative years. And I love this idea or distinction between nature and nurture. So as your embryo became what it was and you arrived on the planet 9 months or so later, what was inherently and always going to be you, and what was influenced by what you saw, heard, and were exposed to from, what a magical combination, you know, in different ways, your parents, you know, doing that activism work. And I would love to just delve a bit into your reflections as to what have been some of your strongest cultural influences in life more broadly, because they're rich and diverse, and you've gone from super inclusive, it sounds a bit like Croydon actually, to Sutton College, which wasn't, and then the corporate ladder, which we'll definitely get in terms of, what have been some of the strongest cultural influences for you. Which ones kind of stand out?
I mean, I think if I just continue where, you know, I was just talking about my parents, the richness in the culture and the combination of them two, I think I've only just come to really realize the significance of it. And I was actually talking to a friend recently, because, you know, being mixed race, it can be complex in terms of understanding your identity, where you fit. And in the 1980s and 1990s, there weren't many mixed race children. And in Birmingham in particular, you know, if you did see mixed race children, and I'm talking of like Black mixed with white, you know, because obviously there's, you know, an array of mixed race, you predominantly saw white mothers with Black fathers. And unfortunately, quite a lot of the time, there was the lack of Black fathers. So my parents, this kind of combination that they had, you know, I feel like my mum, she was rich in her culture. She was rich in her Jamaican heritage. And also, obviously, she was very focused on Black education, Black history. So I was kind of just poured into in that sense. And I loved it, and I grasped it. You know, I went through many years just saying, I'm Black, I'm Black, I'm Black, because I just loved it. But then my dad, you know, my dad was a working class man who Midlands through and through. And I've actually done my DNA test. You know, you can do these ancestry DNA. it's called, and it's identified that 50% of me is Midlands, is white Midlands. So my dad is a Midlands man through and through, working class. He, to his family's dismay, managed to get to university, and they couldn't stand it. They didn't want him to go to university. They wanted him to start working at 14. And he didn't go to any university. He got into Cambridge. I'm not even joking. Like he's a maverick. He's amazing. So he got into Cambridge. His parents disowned him because they just, they thought he was just a posh twat. They're like, oh no, thank you. We're not having that in our family, which you can't even imagine now. But he pushed through. He went to university. He was actually at university with Prince Charles, which my kids find fascinating. They go and tell all their friends all the time. But he really gave me that kind of, you can do anything. I don't care that you're a black woman. Like he would walk into that room, go into this space, put me on my shoulders, he'd take me everywhere he was going. I felt like I was invincible. I was like, I am invincible. I can do anything I want to be. It's like I for a long time, it definitely came, but for a long time, I didn't feel barriers. I think it's because of what he instilled in me. So I think the cultural combination of the two of them, has really, really been the forming of me. And, I say that kind of after working the corporate space for many, many years, there is a white code and there's definitely a white male code environments. And having a white father and learning that code without even realizing it, without even just going through life and understanding how he operates and how he moves and the confidence and where he, and having that poured into me without me knowing it has definitely helped me be able to stay and sustain in some of these spaces. So,
what an incredible. See, I love this because I have an idea. I'm going to ask this question.
Yeah,
I have no idea what you're going to say, and now I'm trying to take it in and thinking, Kofi, we've got a show to do. You need to carry on asking questions. Well, I do think this is such a beautiful segue into why we're both passionate about inclusion and diversity, because, some will have you think that to celebrate one is at the detriment of the other. But what you've just shared to me, simply put, is we can be more than one thing.
Yeah.
We can be fiercely proud and knowledgeable of our Caribbean roots, and at the same time fiercely loving of the white part of our lives. And the product is beautiful, like evident, but also in terms of your mindset and your ability to navigate, but also I think understand and empathize. Like you get it, like you get it, like black woman, white man. Your mind is expanded in ways which there needs to be a whole study on this for sure, because if the world could do one thing, I think it's to understand that there is nothing lost by embracing everything and everyone and supporting that journey. So
fully agree.
Dang. Anyway, I'll keep it moving. We will have to discuss this in one of our other lengthy conversations again. So just if I think then to your studies, the grammar school, incredible. We'll forget about the teacher who shall not be named that kind of had you question yourself as to that you actually got in there. The link between your studies and career path is really not obvious, and I'm nosy. Like I really think I should have been a detective or like a
no, I didn't even realize I had some of my education on there like that.
If you didn't, I will find it, because I should have been a detective or a burglar, because I love just seeing and working out, is there a trend, is there a pattern, does it indicate a preference, or is it conditioning? I love that. And when I looked at your studies and then your career path, it wasn't obvious as to what led you to choose the A levels you did and then the degree that you also did thereafter. I was like scratching my head trying to make it make sense, which is the way now, man. The older I get, the more I realize that you have no actual clue. Like you speak to the person and find out. So this is what I'm doing. So to your educational pursuit, what led you to do the A levels you did and then the degree that you did, and then we'll get into the career piece as well.
So I was quite a boffin in school. Like, I loved learning. I had a troublesome secondary school time, I have to say. It was very, very, very challenging secondary school for me. One, because I was just navigating this new complex dynamic of being one of a few. And then, and also I had to travel an incredible distance every single day. It was like an hour and a half to get there, an hour and a half to get back in school. Yeah, I was up at like, I think it's why I get up at 5 a.m. now, still to this day, but I was up every day at like 5:36. I was out the door by 7 every day. And then school became quite challenging for me. I actually experienced extreme bullying during school. And you would imagine from the story I just said that the bullying was experienced from some of my white peers, but it actually wasn't. I was horrifically bullied by a few Black girls in my school. And it was one of the, you know, hardest things to overcome for many years after it happened, just because they were my kin, you know, and like, I was like, we are, you know, we're one of the same, why, well, you know. But in Birmingham during that time, it was very challenging to be a young mixed race woman, because I think only recently it's really stopped, the kind of sexualization of mixed race women and this kind of weird curiosity about being mixed race and a woman. You saw it through hip hop, you saw it through culture, you saw it through, you know, and that filtered into the Black community. And you know, I must have been about 12, 13. I started to become more of a woman, and I would get so many advances. And it basically turned women against me, because they couldn't understand why I was getting all the advances. But I was just like, I don't want these advances. These advances are so alien to me. There's not something that, you know, it's not. And in the end, that turned into quite a bitter situation for me during my secondary school. So I had a really difficult time with identity, with school, with where I fitted in. But through all of that, which I just always find amazing when I look back, education is what kept me there, because I loved learning, I loved reading, I loved writing, I loved English literature. I found a way to express myself through stories. So I used that kind of to take me through school. And when I got to A levels, it just totally made sense for me to do English literature, because I loved disappearing in a book. I just loved, you know, losing myself in stories. And I was very, very interested in obviously Black literature just because of my parents. So I would always find, you know, hearing the stories and the survival stories and resilience and perseverance, of it kind of gave me something. But I also love Shakespeare.
Yes.
I love Shakespeare. I just, again, because I felt it was fascinating, you know, I loved everything about it. So I did English literature, and I did history, again, because history, understanding what's happened, why it's happened, all the different perspectives. And I just, again, got myself raveled in that. And then sociology, which now I come to realize has been something that's really played through my career, because sociology, and I didn't really know at the time when I took it, because it was quite a new subject for you to take at A level, not many people did, was about culture. So then I became fascinated with sociology, about culture, about social constructs, about how society is created. And so it feels like, if I look back now, I think, God, I didn't realize what I was creating, but I was actually creating where I am now. Then I went on to do my degree. And I went on to do American social studies.
WTF? Like how? What? That's the bit I'm like, okay, yeah.
No, it's crazy. I mean, America. Do you know what? You go through these periods where they start looking at what you want to be, where you want to go, what you want to study, and I really enjoyed history. But I was so bored. I was like, I can't learn about another king or queen. I just couldn't imagine doing that. And at the time, there was nowhere you could go and learn Black history, really. There wasn't like African studies, or from what I remember, I couldn't find courses of that type. There's loads now, I think, you know, you can study everywhere. So I just was like, how can I do history, but still have a more focus on the things that I'm interested in, which essentially was Black people. And that's what, so American social studies is basically the study of transatlantic slavery, and then the impact it had on America and the world. And so that's what my studies became, but people don't realize that. But also, can I just throw in that I got to go to America for a year? So I was like,
Do you know, it was coming to me because I was like, you took a while to do this degree, and I was like, either there was a referral and you switched to something else, or you did some international expeditions. And so I'm loving that you did. Where did you go in America?
California, San Diego. I spent a year in San Diego, in California, going to UCSD, the University of California, San Diego. Best year of my life. And I still talk about it. It's over 20 years ago. And I talk about it like it was just like the best. It was the becoming of me. It was like the best year of my entire life.
Really?
Yeah.
I need to get into this because the fact that it's had such a powerful impact on you. I'm pausing on any questions that I had in my mind. What made it good?
It was freedom, breaking away from the constraints of society here. I didn't realize how restricted you can be when you're, I don't know, you know, so I felt very free there. I was interested in people, in the way society was constructed there, and also being English, you're welcomed in a way which is just like, they're like, oh my God, you're amazing. People were fascinated that I was mixed race and I was English, and over there, you know, it was just, and I made some of the best friends, like the most incredible friends. And university there is a whole beast of a thing. You know, like we grew up watching Saved by the Bell and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It's the same. It's they've got the fraternities and everyone goes around with the hoodies on, and I was like living the life of an American student, and it was so fun. It was
what an experience, you know. Yeah. For me, travel is like literally now any money I make is like I'm traveling, because to your point, like just realizing by movement, physical movement, sometimes it's psychological, but physical movement, that you don't need to be constrained by either cultural conditioning, social conditioning, the stuff that your parents tell you. I mean, yours sound awesome, but I'm sure there's things that if they didn't study parenting, they would have told you that you're now like, yeah, I'm not sure that was, but you've got, you move, and then suddenly it's like, well, who do I want to be and how do I want to show up? And then you're received differently, because California is actually my spiritual second home, by the way. So this is another reason.
Yeah.
I love it there, but you're received as a person of interest, and I know we all are, but when people engage with you from a point of like intrigue and curiosity, and not what you experienced where you had to learn a really hard lesson that not all skin folk are kinfolk, essentially, it's just, yeah, it's just magical. And yeah, wow. Did you know that we are basically the same person, but you have more hair? And jokes aside, the reason, so I'll make this make sense for a second. Don't laugh, because then you're making me. I feel uncomfortable that you don't think you could be. Because
well, you've got hair on the opposite side.
That's it. You see, I manifested the beard instead of the probably what hair on my head, but this is not. It's mandated nowadays, because otherwise I look like Don King in Wind Tunnel. In all seriousness, I did the same A-levels as you did.
Really?
Literature and history, but instead of sociology, I did economics for the breadth and understanding of business, but the world and governments and all of that stuff.
So similar.
And I never knew that there was someone that would love reading books but geek about Shakespeare, which I did.
And you did as well. I know. Do you know what? And I haven't read it for a long time. And I should really. I should actually, it's making me think I should actually just go back and revisit it a little bit. So what did you study at university though?
So I did economics and economic history.
So it's a kind of on the same, yeah.
And this brings me to something that I've only just recently gotten onto. I don't know if it's our age thing, I don't know what it is, but life, in my view, has to be lived forward. Like you go and you do and you become, but it's only really ever understood looking in reverse. So on reflection, you realize, and like you said, there was this theme of, you know, the sociology and the interesting cultures and everything else, that now you look back, you can see it's followed you, but in fact, was it always you, you know, versus it followed you, but now you're more aware of who you are, and actually that's always been me. It's always been what I've liked. So forward living, backwards understanding, because some stuff just doesn't make sense in the moment. But
No.
yeah, the stories you're telling, I'm just like, oh, look at this resilience, look at this adversity, look at this discovery, look at this growth, look at this juxtaposition between white and black. You couldn't get more opposite if you tried in terms of the spectrum. And yet here you are, understanding and benefiting from that combination and richness of life experience. This is a thing. This is an actual thing. How powerful.
To your point as well, you and I wonder if you can ever tell someone, you know, people like to give lessons and say, I don't think you can know in the moment the impact of what it's going to be. But I think to your point, you've got to go with your gut, go with your heart, and you just move forward. And when something feels good, do it. No, I love Maya Angelou. Yeah. Absolutely. I've actually got a tattoo of her on my wrist, but there's an amazing poem that's kept me going through the years. And it's one where she basically says, you know, if you go down a path and that path then becomes uninviting, that's okay. That's fine. You just stop in your tracks, you pick up, and you just move on to something else. Like, it's not, I think sometimes we get so raveled and we spin ourselves in one position because we just don't want to take that leap, that way forward, because we're nervous of what might happen after it. But life is just evolving and you just learning every single time, and you might make a mistake, but then it will all be part of who you are in the end. It will build you, might break you, that will still build you, you know, all of it.
Yeah, that is so powerful. And this is why I remind you that we are the same person, because I have a tattoo.
It's not me, actually. Better not be.
No, but mine is of a different angle. But the one that I want to share is it's not merely to bear what is necessary, but love it. I want to relate that to your story, tenuous as it may seem to some, because it kind of harks back to that stoic value of amor fati, so to love your fate. And really, in life, you'll go through things that are like, oh my God, amazing. Birth of children, finding yourself in a foreign land and just exploring all these things. And then you'll have some crap, like real crap. And if it's major enough on the Richter scale, I call it a life quake. And in those moments, here's me looking at my tattoo going, but we've got to love this, because it's not a loss. It is an opportunity for learning either what you will not have again or what you really hope for in the future. So if we see adversity as adventure, you know, like life as an adventure, but adversity within that, with people often go, get away from me. But if you see it as an adventure, I just think this whole game of life is wicked. It's to be every single moment, whether we see it as good or bad. I don't think it is. I think it's all about us getting to that higher plane of understanding and enlightenment. And so yeah, tattoos, hair in the opposite way, same A levels.
Winning.
You're
gonna hate me. This is gonna be an absolute 5-second interlude. My charger, I've left it in the other room.
Do it. Yep.
Literally, Gonzalez.
Yeah.
That's an unprofessional break.
Yeah, that's it. You did say, do we have breaks? And I like that you're focusing on mobility and movement. Good. Are you all connected?
I'm all connected.
Brilliant. No, this needs to be fully heard and everything. So I'm glad that we've got power. Awesome. So I think we've gone as we do, high, low, deep, everything. And it would be remiss of me not to talk about your career in some way, shape or form, because I think for many people that's going to be super interesting, and maybe what they've known you for historically. So starting with your first role, going to do your American studies, and then at some point thinking, I need a job, I want a job. How did your first role come about, if you don't mind sharing?
So my first role, I left university with a degree in American Social Studies.
Yeah.
Which doesn't naturally lead to much on paper, if you saw it. So coming out of university was a bit of a shock, as in, what am I actually going to do now? I'm not going to be a lecturer. I didn't want to be a lecturer. I didn't want to be in education. I remember I went back to Birmingham, and I spent the summer basically being mental, wild. And my mum turned around to me at the end of that summer and was like, you need to get yourself out of this house, and you need to go to London, and you need to find a job. And it was one of the best things that she ever said to me. And I was like, I absolutely do. Now, luckily in London, when I was about 11 or 12, maybe I was about 11, my dad had to move to London to get a job, because Birmingham, his businesses, the handprint that I mentioned earlier, the company that he had went bust in the 90s. Yeah, thank you, Thatcher. And they had to just rework what they were doing as a family. So my dad moved to London to get a job. So he was renting a place in Bethnal Green, and he still has that place actually. So it's become a base for us as our family. But anyway, so what happened was, I came to London and I was like, what am I going to do? How am I going to find a job? And I saw an advertisement for a recruitment job in central London, Rock Recruitment it was, and they were looking for recruitment assistants. Nothing to do at all with anything that I'd done before, but I went to the job. My mum came with me, actually. She came with me for an interview. So I applied for the job. I got an interview. My mum came with me. I remember we were sitting in the reception. My mum was there. She's my good luck charm. And I crazily got this job, and I became a recruitment assistant, supporting getting temporary staff into Gap, Selfridges and Harrods. And it was like towards the end of the summer. And then we were planning for Christmas, and we were recruiting hundreds and hundreds of temporary staff, training them up to then go and work in the stores. And I found myself doing this. Now, the thing that when I reflect back on it, the thing that I loved about it was, in retail at that time, you put maybe 80% of the people who were working in retail were from an ethnically diverse background. And you have people coming from all over the world, just all walks of life, trying to find a job. And I'd be doing these training sessions with them, and I loved it. I loved meeting them. I loved talking to them. I loved, finding out about who they were, and then providing them with this training that ultimately gave them a job and ultimately helped, them in their life and in their career. Loved it. So that was my first job that I did. I didn't do it for very long. Also, living in London at that time in recruitment, I was earning money. I was going out. I was like, London is amazing. This is the best city in the world, just really living the best life. I did come to a halt though, and I was like, this isn't what I want to be. When I started looking around me and seeing, what recruitment actually meant and what my trajectory looked like, I was like, this isn't where I want to be. Media had always been something that I had been fascinated by. My dad, he's worked in media for many years. It's always been in the family blood in some ways. So then I decided PR was what I wanted to be, because I'm living in London. I'm like, PR, PR back then, it was just seen as the glamorous thing.
So glamorous.
These people meeting, celebrities. I was like, I want a bit of that life. So I actually went and did this short course in the, what was the name of the college? I can't remember the name of the college, but it was like a PR marketing type course, just to see if I could enter in. Did that course, then got an intern position at a PR company where I was earning £12,000 a year, which is £12,000 a year. I mean, that's just, when I think about it now, but I loved it. I was like, great. I'm in with the people in this PR company, and I was working on some amazing campaigns, but PR was ruthless. The way you were treated, the way you were shouted at, the way, I had to do these newspaper cuttings. I had to, because, it was old school, It was only like 20 years ago, but it was old school. And I used to have to cut out the newspaper cuttings whenever we got some coverage in any of the papers. And if I'd cut it at an angle, they'd be like, what? Do it again. It was kind of that, but learnt loads, you know, made some incredible contacts. Absolutely loved my time in PR. But then wanted to get really into media. Then I just got a real interest because I was always on the phone to journalists, pitching stories, selling stories. And then I just thought, I want to be in there. I want to be in that. I don't want to be pitching. I want to be part of you. I want people to be pitching to me.
Yeah, I love that.
So then got a job at the Telegraph. Applied for a job. It wasn't what I wanted, but it was a syndication account manager. And that meant that you were taking the content from the paper and you were syndicating it around the world. Because back then, you know, you'd be selling articles. No way you could do that now. You wouldn't make any money because no one, you know, everyone can get everything for free. But then it was like we were pitching, selling articles, selling stories to publications all around the world. I thought, this is my in. You know, it was kind of an easy segue because it was almost like PRing content. Same thing. I'm just PRing content.
On the other side, yeah.
Into the Telegraph and loved it. I was like, this is it. This is, you know, I love being part of the media organization. I love being part of, you know, producing content every single day, a paper, you know, all of it. And then, I mean, I haven't left media. I haven't left media, and that was in my mid-20s. Yeah, and then I haven't left media since then. I've been fascinated by it. I've loved it. I've done various different jobs within media, but it's always been around supporting the development of newspapers, content, news. Yeah.
Gonna freak you out a little bit more now.
Oh, stop it, Kofi. This is so weird, isn't it?
I started my career in media. I was working in a publishing house, doing magazines, and my bit was selling initially the small little classified adverts. Remember the back before the internet? And then I moved on, progression to display and networking events and selling those opportunities. And then I moved to recruitment. So I kind of followed you, but in the reverse way.
Oh my God. But there's so many transferable skills, especially when it comes, it kind of, I suppose at the essence of it, it's connecting with people. Yeah. It's either selling something or kind of marketing something, but in different ways.
Yeah.
So you've gone from selling, in the paper to then, well, I'm not saying that you can sell people, but you know what I mean? It's like how you present something, how you look at the values, how you then present that to another partner, and how you know, all of that. Yeah. It's
honestly, I'm going to have to watch this back because my head is just going round and round in circles, because now you explain your story, more things are coming to my mind. We're going to need separate episodes for everything that is going on right now, because it's powerful. And I think for me, what I'm taking away from it is just going through that journey and pivoting at the point where it feels like, actually, let me try something new. So you came down, you start the recruitment thing, loved it, you could have stayed doing that, but you're like, oh yeah, actually, let me do something else. And you gave it a go and got into PR, persevered through the culture. And of course, because everyone wants to do PR, they can get someone else, and you've got to stay in it, otherwise you're just gonna get. And then you moved, do you know what I mean? And you switched to go in-house, and then used and built your skills. And I think, you have stayed in media for an incredibly long period of time, but what I do really see is this consistent evidence of progression. And you don't tend to go somewhere and stay for a little bit and then come out. Like the main roles, Telegraph, and I'm thinking about your most recent role, they're like 3, 4, I should have researched this, they're like 3 or 4 roles in each place. So you've so tell us a bit about that progression journey, because I find like sometimes people are obsessed, like obsession with progression, and sometimes it happens organically or anything else. But how did you move up?
I think I'm naturally ambitious,
right?
But I do see opportunities. I'm the kind of person, I remember I did, someone actually described me as this, and I actually realized it was true. You know, when you have one of these reviews, like, Shay, just give you a blank piece of paper and you fill that paper and you create something. I'm that kind of person. Right. So if I'm given the autonomy in the space to be able to create or cultivate something, I get excited and I kind of just with it. So it's not so much about wanting to be higher up in a company or wanting to progress. Of course, that naturally happens. It's more about my creative mind is just like, oh, but what about this opportunity there? And so that's what really happened when I was at the Telegraph. Is at the time that I was doing the syndication, they decided they wanted to move away from your more traditional marketing, which was about advertising and selling papers in that more traditional way, to really more heavy hitting promotional, because newspaper sales were dying like that. People weren't buying them anymore. So they needed to find more creative ways to get people to pick them up off the shelf. So they recruited a promotions team. I was like, I could do that. And it was basically, we had to try and find very exciting promotions, like whether it's like free this or offer here, to put on the front of the newspaper that would attract someone to pick it up off the newspaper stand. And I just loved it. And I remember my interview, because I don't think they knew, I think, you know, the guy, I mean, I love him now, we always talk now, but I think he was like, oh, are you right? And I was just like, I am the right person for this. I can get you promotions. I can get them. I can get those brands to put themselves on the front of paper. And then it just became my mission. And we created some of the most amazing partnerships and promotions to go on the front to attract people. I remember one year we did this partnership with Marks and Spencer's, where we offered free Christmas decorations. You got the paper and you went into Marks and Spencer's. Marks and Spencer's had people queuing around the corners. So I mean, I just loved it. So then I kind of found a niche for myself. I was like, this is, because it wasn't happening. Like now, promotions everywhere, people do it. But then people weren't doing promotions. So I was like, this is cool. So I ran with it. I just ran with it, was so head focused on it. And that's how I get like very tunnel vision focus. And then just kept progressing in that space. And because of that, the team grew. Then I became head of partnerships for the Telegraph. Then I was managing the loyalty program for the Telegraph. And I was like, it was just, it was like a natural progression, but it came out of my always wanting to just achieve on what I was doing rather than this. Definitely along the way, I asked for more money. I asked for more state. You know, I definitely did that when I could see the value I was bringing, but it was much more about, I just love the job. I love the team. I love what we were doing. I had an amazing boss as well at the Telegraph. He was fantastic, Graham Horner. He's brilliant. And he believed in me. He was such a forward-thinking man. And he had me as his, you know, his two deputies. He had me and he had this other woman who happened to be a lesbian woman. But he was so radical then, because it was like, you have a black woman, you have a lesbian woman, and we're your team. And for like, that was quite radical at the time at the Telegraph. But he used to bring me in every room. He'd, you know, if it was my work, he'd say, this is Shelley's work. He'd seed me things and then let me run with it. And then he wouldn't, you know, he'd sit back and he wouldn't be that kind of person that was like, I gave you that idea. You know, it was just, so I think along the way, I've definitely had some good people who've just kind of gone, you're great, do that more, you know. And then I left there and went off because I'd worked so hard all my life. I worked so hard and I was exhausted. I was about 30. I was absolutely done. You know, my brain's ticking. I'm like, why haven't I got any babies? Why haven't I got a partner?
Because you've thrown yourself into your work like an absolute machine.
Yeah, I just had awful relationships along the way because really my focus has been on running like a machine. Then I decided to go traveling on my own. So I quit my job.
Did you?
Yeah, I quit my job. And Graham was devastated. He was so upset. He was just like, where are you going? I was like, I've got to go and I've got to just work something else. You know, didn't feel right at the time. I felt like I needed to have that break. So I put backpack on my own and went traveling around Asia.
What part?
I went to Thailand, Cambodia, my favorite place on earth, so beautiful. I went to Singapore and Vietnam.
Yeah. Oh wow. Some of those are on my list. Some of those are definitely on my list. Yeah. Thailand is one of my favorite places. Singapore I've been to a number of times, but Vietnam, the food, the French influence with that as well. But again, this is another chunk. Shelley's travel diaries. We're going to do another one as well, because there's some stories that may need to be after the curfew. Perhaps I'm just.
Yeah, I know very much.
Because we're the same person. My mind is already. It's there. But yeah, amazing for you to just take that step again, like to hear yourself and understand that there was something else that you needed that wasn't to be found in work, as fulfilling as it had been. And what a legend Graham. Yeah, be more Graham is what I'm saying.
Be more Graham. Be more Graham. He'll love that.
Just let him know. Be more Graham is the thing, because that just because deep down, I think we all somewhere somehow crave autonomy and freedom and independence. And no disrespect to anyone that does it through a corporate structure versus is an entrepreneur, because I think you demonstrated beautifully how you can work within an organization but actually forge your own path. And in my view, that is equally as valuable as being an entrepreneur on the outside, because you're not just going in and turning the wheel. And again, no disrespect meant. There's nothing here about superiority versus inferiority. It's just you can take different routes to growing, really, is how I see it. And you did. And then you left and left Graham in tears. So we'll have to make it up to it. I say you have to make it up to it if you haven't already. But you know, as we talk a bit about your journey, there's one word that comes up repeatedly in your career that I saw. My eyes just kept going.
Really?
Do you know what it is? Any guesses on what word it is?
Like a descriptive word, or like
this is where we get to have fun, because you don't know what I'm going to say, isn't it? So
it's not like media. It's not boring. Like authenticity.
No, you I don't like this, because this is where I'm going to bring it back. The word is partnerships.
Yes.
I think
Yes. All the way through. Yeah. And there's a collaboration to be had. I am the one to do it. And of
course, like the media piece and the authenticity, they will come through for talking to people and gathering information from them. But it's loud and it's clear. Partnerships keeps coming back, different roles, but partnership is in there. So I wanted to understand, given that I'm designating you guru of partnerships, what does partnership mean to you?
Oh gosh, partnerships on many levels. So essentially, it's the collaboration of two entities, whether that be people, businesses, brands, coming together on a shared purpose to provide, that then equates to value for each entity.
Kind of like win-win.
I should have practiced that. I didn't know that was going to come up, but
it's okay. I think you get it. I think it makes sense. It's individuals or corporate, in summary, aiming for a win-win outcome.
Yeah.
I think
and it can be incredibly powerful, because you can bring together two businesses, for example, or two brands, which are totally different. And they can get such different outcomes from it. So an example would be, I did quite a lot of value-driven partnerships when I was head of diversity at News UK. And that is, News UK needed to achieve, it wanted to reach new audiences. It needed to understand certain cultures better. And to connect to those cultures, we needed to recruit different diversity. So we had what we needed. Equally, some of the charities or the organizations that we're working with, they needed exposure. They needed funding. They needed to align themselves with a big business, So it's the coming together of businesses or brands, and both get an exchange of value, but it means that businesses that wouldn't necessarily work together can work together.
Amazing. I'm trying to say a fancy word and it's escaping me, and I'm also scared to say in case I get it wrong. But let's have it. Symbiotic comes to mind.
Yes, I've used that word a lot. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
No, it's you're creating an ecosystem that is the partnership that serves each constituent within that partnership for mutual gain, right? Like one side needs reach and coverage, the other side needs publicity and funding and all the good stuff, and opportunities for people to go and learn. And so I love that. I love
What's coming to mind though as well, I think what I like about it is you give underdogs, essentially, I don't like that word, but sometimes the underdogs are businesses, brands who don't have much way of big commercial spend or power. You give them exposure, opportunity, and which they might not have had. So that was like, when I did all my partnerships, where I was connecting brands, say with the Telegraph, we'd go to some businesses who wouldn't have loads of money to do loads of advertising. They wouldn't be able to do these big brand campaigns, but they would have something to offer. They'd have some value that we thought was equal or what we needed at that time. And so then they get the exposure, so it's like, it can serve in lots of ways, partnerships.
And I'll take you back to the beginning when I did the introduction and you're like, oh God, what's he going to say? I did say national treasure and champion of the underrepresented. And I feel that what you're sort of sharing now is really building on that premise. So it's not like, for example, a community only thing, it can be a corporation thing, but the underrepresented who don't have the funding, don't have the voice or the platform, how can we work together to give you something? But then also, like I said, like commercial innovation, like we give you something, we get something back. Like it's not a charitable exercise, but it's an impactful, socially mobilizing, or certainly from a corporation perspective, mobilizing opportunity. So yeah,
I always look at things through that commercial lens. And sometimes I've been nervous about saying that, especially when I entered or I got more involved in the diversity and representation space. Obviously, I come from a commercial background, but so at first I felt nervous at saying, we've always got to present value, that there's always got to be something on the table, because people won't listen enough, or they won't even respect it enough. But if you can quantify your value, whether that's your own personal value, or whether that's your business's value or charity's, but whatever it is, if you can quantify, because everything has a value to someone, it's finding the person or the big thing or the business that will treasure that value. But I think too often we don't want to say that. It might feel uncomfortable, but in a world where that is what it's all about, it's value exchange. I mean, even in partnerships, I think in relationships, I remember I did an article when I was, because I got quite, high up in partnership land, if you want to, so to speak, in terms of, speaking on it and being out a voice for it. I remember once I compared it to relationships. It is the same in a partnership with a person. You've both got to put value in, but you both have different values, but it's, so.
This conversation is going off to another place, but I love it.
Sorry.
I totally agree with you. I've often thought that, like a bottle of water, it is, I don't know, you go to your Tesco's, your Aldi, your Lidl, it's like 80p. You go to the train station and it's £1.50. You're on your flight, EasyJet, Ryanair, BA, whatever, it's like £4.50. The value, it's the same product, but the value is perceived differently depending on the environment that you're in.
Yes.
And I love this connection between relationships because, I'm going to say it, in life sometimes you can be in a relationship where your value, whether it be because of time, tenure, naturally grown apart, can be not appreciated or correctly appraised. And to me, it's completely part of the journey. Like I said, not merely to bear what is necessary, but to love it, right? It's completely appreciated. And I think when you step out of certain situations and you ask for a market valuation and the market comes back positively and that, oh my God, this is a £5 bottle of water. And you're like, are you sure? Because I thought I was only 80p. There's a journey in that in terms of unlearning and really recalibrating like where your market value is and what you can bring to partnerships, be them commercial or personal. So you've got something going in my mind here. You've got something going in my mind. And actually there was something that I did want to ask you about, because I know I promised you that I'd keep it real and real. Being a believer in partnerships and touching on it, like when your most personal partnership didn't work out, how did you react to that? Because for me, if you're like me, a partnership is take it or leave it. But for me, I feel when you speak on it, you really put your heart, your soul, and your mind into the creation of what is win-win. And I think, again, there is an appreciation and empathy for what other parties need and how it could be supportive. So, and I don't know any details, but I do know is that there was a partnership and it's no longer. How do you react to that? Because I imagine you would have put a lot in, and certainly other parties would feel that they did the same.
Hard, very, very, very challenging. I've had to do a lot of work myself to get through the loss of the partnership that I had with my children's dad, because I never ever, and I don't think anyone ever does want to be a single parent, but if you had asked me and if you had told me I would have ended up having children on my own, I would have said, I don't think I want them. Like, I really wanted to have a unit. I mean, and so I've had to do a lot of work on kind of mourning what I wanted and what the reality is. But I think in reality, what did happen was I was totally misaligned in who I was as a person, and probably the value I was placing on myself, if I'm really, really frank. I think I went through a crisis with that, realizing that I was deeply, deeply unhappy. And, you know, I spent my life supporting other people, building great partnerships, doing the most, having a very successful career, and then suddenly facing the fact that I was in a partnership which was really unhealthy and very toxic and not serving me very well, and actually making me quite sick. So, but still trying to be that person, still trying to drive forward, still trying to push ahead. And I had to really knuckle down on what I wanted and who I was, and that then culminated in me leaving my partner for the health of myself and for the health of my future. I had to do that, and it has definitely, I don't want to say it's been like it was the right thing to do. The right thing to do, because where I was successful, I did have a good job, and I was driving forward. I wasn't happy. And since that, I did a lot of work on myself. I've completely kind of transformed and changed who I am as a person, and how much I believe in myself and who I want to be as a person now. And yeah, the cost of that was my partnership. But I think it was absolutely the right decision to make. It's very difficult. I mean, you know, you're a co-parent as well. It's, you know, it's a very, very challenging thing to do and navigate. But it's since then, I've got some of the best opportunities. You know, my circle's changed, my outlook on life has changed. I actually look at photos of myself during those years where I was deeply unhappy, and I don't recognize myself. I really don't. I don't see me in them. I see unhappiness. So, I mean, you've got to know when the right time to leap is and to get out of something. I think you've got to be very aware. And I see it all too often happen where people don't, and it can ruin your whole life. You know, you wake up 20 years into a relationship, 25 years into a relationship, and realize you're the tiny fragment of who you used to be. And so I could see that, and it was a big leap of faith to do what I did. But
no, credit to you for making what I get it, like one of the hardest decisions you ever made. How long ago was that for you, like that?
It fully started to break down in 2019. 2020 is when I had to find myself a new place with my children. But it's funny because, you know, what was actually one of the hardest times in my life, you know, having to sell our home, move into a rented accommodation, in COVID, which was, you know, no one could even help me. I remember I was selling my home and packing it up, and I was doing it on my own because you couldn't have anyone come around and help you or do anything. Very, very, very lonely, very, very hard time, I've got to say. But on the flip side, it actually became the making of who I am, because in 2020, I then got my new role as head of creative diversity at News UK, and my life went a totally different trajectory. And I felt that it's weird. I felt the happiest I've ever felt. I felt fulfilled. I felt like my values and who I wanted to be as a person, who I wanted to present myself as a person, who I wanted to be as a mother. I felt all of those things changed. So I just do think out of the deepest, darkest sorrow and those darkest moments, there will be a moment where you come out of it, you know? And then that definitely it does make you stronger. It's definitely made me stronger.
Yeah, 100%. And firstly, before I even try and say anything remotely, like, just so proud. Really.
Oh, thank you.
So proud, because I think for anyone listening, that you can understand the challenge of, you said yourself, if you said I'd be a single parent, I'd say, no, thank you, keep babies. I will find another way to contribute or grow society, like some other way. So when I hear you, I really hear that conflict between how you felt your life would go, how you felt your life should go, and the reality of when people show you who they are, you know, kind of you're best off listening and then making a call as to which way you go. And not that I've got several tattoos, but another one that I do have says per ardua ad astra, which is for the Latin boffins, from adversity to the stars. And I want to put that as a shared slogan, but one for your journey, because, and I know we flow between faith and all sorts of things, but one of my friends who's going through this awful cancer situation said to me that in the Bible there's a sort of passage where Jesus takes the bread, blesses it, breaks it, and then he gives it out to the world. And he said to me that going through his cancer journey, he felt that was him, that Jesus took him, blessed him, broke him. And in that, he said, like, the level of humility he got going through that struggle. And I was like, oh my God, I relate. Because honestly, I feel like I completed the mission. Like, I was out here, like, I will not shy away from asking someone, oh, so you've got children, are you married? Oh, and then ring out the phone, look at that. And I've just lacked severe empathy for those that wanted but never had, those that had met the wrong person and didn't work out, all of this. And the humility that came as a result of that for me, I think has allowed me to go out into the world differently with an understanding of how that feels. Because, you know, when someone dies, you can say sorry for your loss, but if you haven't experienced it, how are you going to know that you get all these emotions in one day? Within an hour, you could be like, you know, the whole thing happens. But when you felt that loss and the need to recreate your identity, and it's not just what you had, it's what you were going to have. So you've almost got like this double whammy of like, my life felt okay. But then we were going to this, and this, and be at the kids' weddings, and and you've got to like completely, I think, let go of all of that.
You have to let go of it all, yeah, and it's so painful. And also, I've had to make peace with. I get so upset, like I can get so emotional about the idea. You know, 2 young Black boys, raising them on my own, the impact that might have on their life. And then, you know, you got headlines everywhere that's talking about single Black mums and what we go through. We die earlier, we're stressed, our kids go end up on the, and you know, I just get so upset and like so angry. Like for a long time, I just, you know, you almost don't even want to tell anyone. Like you just don't want it to be that label and for people to be like, oh, you know what? One of the reasons I got really into my work was because I was so sick and tired of them headlines. You know, Black boys 9 times more likely to die. I was just like, the representation is so wrong. But so I think my sons are what drives me to now be what I am fully. But it is hard. It's definitely hard raising children on your own. And, you know, 2 boys, I often worry that they're not getting enough. I'm not giving enough. They're not going to have the full experience. They're going to be lacking of. It is challenging.
It is, and you know, we can get into the dynamics of co-parenting with someone that you no longer are connected to and all the rest of it. But to stay on the positive track, I would say that in my observation and journey and talking to others, etc., it's not always about what we say, it's what they see us do. And I think in my own journey, I realized that, like the phoenix that's now tattooed on my chest, I'm revealing rising from the burning world.
We're going to have a tattoo off.
Oh, we have to. But yeah, it's rising from this burning world, and I really wanted my children to see, how do I respond to a setback, you know, like a life quake, because I could tell them all the positive growth mindset, yada yada yada, but you know, like this conversation, all the ones that I try to have, seeing is believing. Like representation matters hugely, and also the narrative around it. And so I get you when you talk about young Black boy co-parenting and being a Black man. It's like, oh yeah, there's another one that's like one off, and no one has any idea of the depths and the what happened. No one knows. No one will really ever truly understand, and that's not for now. Maybe a book, but not for now. But we grow through what we go through, and actually, if I can say anything to reassure you, it takes a village to raise a child. And I've said this to our mutual connection, Amanda, with raising Jesse, that I am, whether he wants me to be or not, hopefully he does, I am Jesse's uncle, and he actually believes that I am. And I've said, if there's any time where I could play a role in hearing him, not necessarily talking to him, because God knows I do a lot of that, but hearing him and being there for him, but trying to be a role model to him in any way, shape or form, be it in cycling or whatever he likes, I'm here for it. Because back in Ghanaian communities, I could not, when I lived in Ghana, do nonsense and my dad not know about it before I got home, because everyone knows who everyone's kids, and there's a sense of, we raise them together, they represent us. So if I could reassure you, it is 99% of the things we worry about never happen anyway. Yeah. There are many supporters and well-wishers that would want to see the boys right, and watching you go through what you've gone through, it's even more powerful. In a minute, they're going to start saying things, you're like, don't do what I do what I say. But that, and when you get that, and it's on the positive end of the spectrum, and you see their resilience and how they think and grow and navigate through life, you'll know your hand, maybe God's hand too, has been in their life. So long story short story, saying like, from adversity to the stars, lady, there's no reason why it shouldn't.
I love that phrase.
You know,
adversity to the stars.
So yeah, if you get a matching one, then I know that you just want to be me rather than me wanting to be you.
You'd like that, would you? So then you could.
Yeah, at the moment I feel like I'm literally following your footsteps, but this is okay. And I think we've talked about so many funny things, and I think yesterday's conversation was the juggle is real, you know, in terms of fellow co-parents. And one thing I want to touch on is the balance in the desire for the greater good in the work that you've been doing, and then the needs of your world, you know, your boys and what they need. Like, how have you reflected on that? And I guess going forward, what might that look like? Because now you're a free agent, right? You get to build what you want to build from the ground up, wherever, be it corporate or entrepreneurial. I don't know. We'll come to that in a bit. But yeah, just that balance of helping others and helping home.
Yeah, so yeah, for people listening, I recently left a job at News UK as head of diversity, and I've been doing that role for 5 years. So I left there end of May, and yeah, it's been surprising. I'm like, how on earth did I do that job and also do my home life, parenting and doing home? Because, and then I suppose it's the thing about when you're so busy, you don't even realize you're so busy. Like when you're just doing everything, you don't even realize how much you're doing. And I think that has been me, and that's definitely been a journey that I've realized. I have to have more balance in my life. I have to have more balance. I was getting to the point early this year, I was absolutely at breaking point. And I would have these cycles where I'd do burnout, and I thought it was normal, almost just part of what I had to do. Like I'd just go for a few months and I'd get totally burnt out, sick, be in bed, exhausted, back on it again. And that's not a way to live. It's not a way to survive. So I think this rest, I've needed the rest so much, but what the rest has taught me is I need more balance. I have felt so much more joy and that kind of freedom to play than I've ever felt with my children. You know, they're 10 and 8 now, and the home is more balanced now. I feel the energy is easier. I mean, it's still challenging. They're 10 and 8 and they're boys, and they're still kicking a ball across the room every second, but I'm lighter. So the home feels lighter, and I don't want to lose this feeling. And I know I'm going to get back into it, and I'm already, you know, but I'm going to definitely, like you say, rewrite what it looks like and try to grasp onto this and remember what it is. I love the freedom of being able to be more playful, of being able to see my boys with like more joy, and just, so I'm definitely going to rebalance it forward. It's very easy to get lost in.
It is. And I think when you're ambitious and hardworking, that combination, and also let's add in, you're passionate about what you're doing, because if it was a job that you're like, meow, you'd kind of do 9 to 5, you're like, okay, I've done it and get paid, that's it. But when you love what you do, you're hardworking and you're ambitious, you keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And I think going back to what I said before, where life is lived forward but understood on reflection, you now have this break to really recalibrate and look at what's important. And a friend, I think mutual friend of ours, Ade Amadou, said to me when we did this, he managed to do as many things as he did because he realized that wherever he was, he had to be fully there. And at the time he said, I was like, sound a bit woo, but essentially he was talking about being present, and the ability to be present, I think, comes from the ability to have yourself first and foremost as a priority. Because you get on a plane, right? They do the safety demonstration. What do they tell you when it comes to oxygen mask will drop down? What do they say?
Yes, you've got to first put it on yourself so that you can. Yeah, it's so true.
You know,
it is really true. I'm feeling that a lot right now. Yeah.
You know, and that's no, for me, I work with clients on this where they're in senior roles and they're balancing, because the higher up you go, the more responsibility, the higher profile, you've had it, right? You know it. You put that oxygen mask on yourself, and it's almost weird because you feel maybe guilt, maybe you're neglecting your children or your partner or this or that. But I always say to look at this as a cup. You've got a certain amount of stuff, energy, joy, happiness in this cup. If it keeps getting poured from and nothing goes back into it, in a minute you're going to tip the cup and nothing's going to come out. Your children, your partners, your colleagues, your people that you lead will be better off with you being at your best with that joy and that lightness and that playfulness and that openness, and not that sort of like, oh my God, woe is me. Would someone stop asking me for things? Children, feed yourselves already. You're 10 or 8. Feed yourselves. I know the feeling. I've had it. But when you find that sweet spot and you don't just visit the top, but you're sustained in a way that allows you to stay at the top, then I see it as it's your responsibility, all of our responsibilities, to keep that balance strong so that we can do more of what we need to do for longer. Does that make sense?
Fully.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've had to do a lot of work on being like actually looking after yourself, nurturing yourself, doing the things that you enjoy is really important for everyone. You know, I love the gym. If I don't go to the gym, my mood is totally different. Go to the gym then. You know, you can't, there's no excuses. I like to go for a sauna, but you can find yourself, oh, I just don't think, you know, you can always feel like, well, maybe I should be taking them to a club, or maybe I should be doing, no, because no one's going to be taking them anywhere if you don't make sure that I'm in that, isn't it? I'm fully in that, because you just burnt out and you're just exhausted, and they much prefer you to be happy after coming back from a sauna than taking them to a club going, get in the car, like, you know. Yeah,
absolutely. So, absolutely. And yeah, you know, again, come back to the sense of pride I have, because at that time, 2020, you know, going through everything you're going through, showing up in these senior spaces, trying to build really productive, you know, policies, practices, just things that are for the greater good, and that home life's not that. And I wonder how many people would actually have known what you were battling personally, and yet still showing up professionally. And I think, yeah, nothing but a big bouquet of flowers, really. And just, yeah, good on you for that, because it ain't easy.
It's not easy. Yeah, resilient. I hate the word resilience. I do love the word resilience. I think we need more of it, but it is that, isn't it? It's the resilience to keep going forward. But then you've got to have the why you're doing it, I suppose. You've got to have the why you are doing it, the back of your mind times that I'm doing this because, one, I care deeply about what I'm focused on in terms of my career, but also I really care about my family. Yeah, you definitely always have to keep in mind the why when you're going through those moments.
And yeah, you do. I talk about it, and I help people do that, like connect with why, because often, you know, people will push and push and push, and much like when you said to Graham, I'm off, you kind of run so fast that you come off the edge of the cliff, but you're still, the momentum is just taking you, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, wait, how did I get here? Why am I here? Like, with intention, not like passively just get carried by the wave, but with intention. And so many things to ask you, but I'm mindful that unless people have extensive concentration spans, I want to save some for our future conversations. But something I did want to ask: future aspirations now that you've left News UK, and like, I'm excited for you because the world is your oyster. Your bank balance might be saying something different in some time. Like, Shelley, if you don't stop, and this is me just assuming, if you don't stop going out and having fun and traveling to Jamaica,
I know.
We're gonna have conversations. We're gonna have to have a chat. But all the seriousness, jokes to one side. Like, now that you are free from, you know, the role that you had, and it's a new opportunity to just whatever. Like, where are you with your aspirations? Hot off the press. I'm nosy, as I said. So, what's going on?
I am actually excited. Now I've come up for air, because at first I was just like, you know, it was an intense job. Loved it, passionate about it, but it was insane. It overtook everything, who I was. When I've come out of it now and I've had a couple of months, I'm like, oh my God, I did that. Like, I actually did that, which is a crazy thing to say, because obviously in the time you're just doing it. But I'm like, and it was phenomenal. But I did that. Now I'm like, but I don't think I was present enough through it. My aim is to be very present, to be very, very here, very now. You know, I've done a lot of work so I can build on that. And I think I should take a moment to build on that, call on people, connect with people that I've built relationships with. And fundamentally, make sure I'm continuously thinking about this inner core values that I want to maintain, which I'm working on right now when I'm talking about the home and the equilibrium and who I want to be as a person, and make sure I'm drawing on those things for my next move, because it's important. I'm going into my mid-40s. One of my friends messaged me the other day and said, we're only 15 years from 60. I was like, God. But I was like, why do you put it like that? But I was like, the reality is this is where we're at. And so what is it that I want the next 15, 20 years to be about? And how do I want, and I've got an opportunity to cultivate that. So I'm really excited. I'm exploring what that looks like. I'm exploring opportunities. It's just a very exciting time for me.
Yeah.
But you're right. The bank balance will start going, holidays. Stop those now. But no, it's an exciting time. And you know what's coming through quite a lot, interestingly, is the partnerships.
I mean, you say it like there's a surprise. To me, it makes complete sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's this elevating of them as well. And it's like for a greater purpose. And I'm exploring all the facets of what I've done and trying to culminate and bring those together into who I'm going to be next.
I think it will be fabulous, because in financial service, they say past performance is no predictor of future performance. If you put your money in one of the investment managers. But for me, when I look at your background and we talk, and every time I speak to you, I'm like, dang, like how you do anything can be how you do everything, good and bad. But you apply yourself, you understand who you are able to connect and understand disparate worlds and bring real value to conversations. And I think that if I could give you one, because this is not coaching, is one unsolicited piece of advice, it is to allow yourself to just be and enjoy the moment of fun in this seemingly fallow period, because it cannot all be a season of bloom and growth and harvest and productivity and all the rest of it. I did a similar thing, took some time off last year and just focused on enjoying myself. And in that moment and studying the diploma, things started to come, like people would pop up and say things and ideas. The subconscious, just you get to hear it. And I feel like you're on a good track. But I also imagine after so many years of just go, there'll be this, what are we doing? Come on, I need to do something. What's my to-do list? How many, like human being, not human doing. So just do nothing. And when you run out of money, call Kofi. Kofi, you said, and we'll have a conversation about, I didn't quite mean for that long, but really just try to be and savor the moment and enjoy the boys as much as you can. And people, places, and pursuits, I always talk about, like the things that uplift you in those three categories. Yeah, where you can, just fill your cup with those amazing things, and yeah, go forth and prosper, because it's gonna be wicked. I can't wait. I've got my biscuit here. I'm just nibbling at it, thinking, ooh, whatever happens with the trustee role at BBI, the Black British initiatives, and I know you did the MBA 30. Was it last year?
Yeah. God, was it last year? No, it was the year before last year. You made me feel a bit teary with what you just said.
Sorry?
You made me feel a bit teary with what you just said.
Which bit?
Just when you're saying just be, like, yeah, it's very true to just, and you said some amazingly lovely things, so thank you. I don't normally do such personal interviews.
No.
And I've enjoyed this one a lot. But yeah, what you just said about just being, I think we can all do that better. And I keep getting told off. I go, but I think I'm only just now starting to feel my whole nervous system rest. It's taken months.
It's rehabilitation. It's rehabilitation in a way, I think. And it's my thing is, the vision I had was to be a channel of peace. And that peace we had, and at some point just became hectic and frantic and instant this and do it and this and that. And I think when you slow down and you breathe and you sit in this present moment, I feel it anyway, you're living life to the fullest, but you'll realize how amazing the miracle of your life is. Life situations, yeah, okay, this can be improved, okay, yes, fine, but being still and like feeling the breeze or the sun, or just hearing your boys laughing, not arguing, or arguing about something and hearing the way they, or whatever it may be, that being without having to do, I love it because it reminds me that I am enough and I have enough.
Yeah.
And everything else is the continual work in progress that life forever will be, you know. So yeah, I'm glad that it resonates and you're feeling it. I really am.
Very, very well said. Beautiful.
Yeah. So I must actually go and do actual other things because I've enjoyed being here with you. And I think before we do, reluctantly, for anyone that is navigating their own change or just trying to figure out stuff, like, and thinking, do you know what, hearing how Shelley has been and operated and what she's doing, I'd love to be more Shelley. What would you want them to leave this conversation thinking or feeling?
I be more Shelley. I think I have come to understand that when I lead with my heart, and I mean my heart fully, I am my best. And I think it was a very big lesson for me in becoming more of a leader. I think we're all leaders to some degree, but, you know, I started to lead quite a lot in terms of diversity in the work we were doing. And I realized so many people don't lead with their heart. They forget it. And it's important. And it's, especially being a woman, we feel sometimes it's a bit of a negative, but leading with your heart, going with that feeling, welcoming people, warming people in, I think is my way. And I think it should be more people's way.
I couldn't agree with you more, really. And I remind people often that we are 1 in 8 billion. And why do you want to fit in? Like, when you can be you, and that's not just in the way you think, but just how you feel and what appeals to you, and the way that you have really brought together all your life experiences as we've unwound it in reverse to become where you are now, and followed your heart when it's told you, yeah, it's time for that break, or it's time for that change, or it's time to do more, or it's time to do less. Is I think, yeah, a really powerful point to end on. But I must say thank you to Amanda Wilmer for connecting us, which was initially going to be about our worlds of diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging, and has become a wonderful conversation about faith, co-parenting, like entrepreneurism, the MBA 30, like. I love our chats for like the randomness.
I know it has been wonderful to get to know you. I love you that you've done this and brought me on this show. I think it's brilliant, and it's great that you do this Coffee with Kofi. I think it's fantastic. Really good.
It's catching on, but I think for me it comes back to the idea of representation and narratives. And to your point, I'm not an either or person. I'm a believer in we should all be proud and show up in our full authenticity. Of course, there's like ways of doing stuff, but in our full authenticity, because if we actually did, like the magic that we would create on this planet, I think people would be like, oh my days, like Shelley at her best, Kofi at her best, Amanda at her best, you know, Darren at his best, you know, everyone just coming and just killing it with that idea of let's partner and let me work with you to build something that we both win. DE and I roll back or whatever roll back is a nonsense. Like we will make more cake.
Different anyway.
Sorry?
Just call it something different anyway. I hate the idea there's a rollback. It's just something different now.
No, I you know, and I think that's yeah, we get into a different topic around sort of branding and all the rest of it. But I think ultimately if people sat back and appreciated that there's so much that unites us and divides us. I mean, I've laughed with you so many times about how we are the same person, but if I could see myself in you and you could see yourself in me and we could see ourselves in other people and see that person as our family, you'd want, whether it's neurodiversity or ethnicity or gender, you'd want to do what's right by them. So like, forget the exoskeleton, we are one, and let's approach life like that. And that's why this is here, because whether you're black, brown, whatever shade, gender, if people can hear this and say, dang, I feel like that, but I don't look like that, or I never thought about that, and it opens a conversation based on love and greater empathy and understanding, then we're cooking something, right?
Agree.
Yeah, we're cooking something. So brilliant. Well, I'm going to eat these 2 biscuits on my own because
I know, it's so sad. I'm going to have to go and find a biscuit now in the cupboard.
Yeah. Well, when you're not, summer holidays are done, we'll catch up properly and we'll continue the putting the world to a better platform and work things out. But thank you so much. It's been brilliant. Really, really brilliant. Probably one of my favorite ones today because it's you. It's real.
Yay. So, I don't like the fact that you didn't say it's your favorite. It's one of your favorites, but it's okay. We won't semantics.
Yes. Yeah. Friends of yours are friends of mine. I hope friends of mine are friends of yours. But yes, it's been epic, and I'm going to smile and save my blushes before I get myself into trouble. But yeah, we'll catch up again super soon. Thank you once again.
Thanks, Kofi. Bye.
Bye, Shelley.